morning, everyone, boys and girls, and welcome to Beer Blather. This is Beer Blather 283, Obsolete and Eerie. Just like that, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting lost its funding. Over $1 billion that taxpayers will no longer spend in what has become nothing more than a propaganda outfit for the DNC. And if they had all received a memo, as if they had all received a memo in the morning, using the same vocabulary and the same sophomoric fallacies, all Democrat senators and representatives came out on social media tearing their clothes out and decrying the loss of the only means of communication available to rural America, would you believe? Alas, no one in rural America watches these tired government sponsored propaganda bills. No more Benny Hill, cried one idiot. Say goodbye to, long dead, Mr. Rogers, blurted another. In fact, no one in rural America or anywhere else watches this obsolete and eerie video. They stopped watching a long time ago. If 40 years ago, with one or two TV stations serving most markets, four total in New York City, the argument could have been made for a viewer sponsored network airing material unpalatable to commercial TV, say ballet, opera, theater, British sitcoms. Today, the ready availability on cable, satellite, and streaming media makes it not only unnecessarily, but eerily redundant. Want to watch Benny Hill or Downton Abbey? No problem. There are channels dedicated to them 24/7. And the same goes to the guy painting happy little trees on happy little mountains, or the Cookie Monster. Towns will be deprived of vital information, said the morons, during weather events. Bullshit. With competing weather channels and 24-hour news plus satellite radio, one would have to be a couple of miles underground to not get the information, and public TV doesn't reach down there anyhow. I can imagine people facing a nor'easter, desperately trying to adjust the antenna on the rooftops to get PBS. Eh, it doesn't work that way. At best, public TV has outlived its usefulness. At worst, it has morphed into an ideologically driven Komsomol station. Good riddance. Celebrate the savings and maybe use a small portion to give the soon to be unemployed propagandists scholarships so they can learn to code. We hope other equally obsolete government agencies are not far from the chopping block. Let's discuss some of them. This is Sol Montes Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information, from my comfortable golden cage in Southeast Florida. And right next to me, let me see, this guy over there. Look at that, Thomas. I got the right direction this time. Thomas Victor, the only living expert in World War I flamethrowers from Californication, where he patiently submits to the vagaries of some of the most god awful Democrats this country has to offer. Yeah, poor thing. I don't envy you, Thomas. I definitely don't. And both of us are here to waste a couple of hours of our time, if you have us, and discuss whatever comes to our minds. Now, there are a few chats out there. There's the chat on Odyssey. The link is being provided in all the links where we advertise this. And that one I will faithfully check as we go along, and anything germane will be brought into the program. There is a chat in YouBoob, and usually we don't even look at it, but I decided to try a new feature. They have a challenge. If people make three, if big contributions to the chat, I'll start looking at them too. Now, with the mullet. So that is it. I don't think I have any more rules of the game because there are no rules. How are you doing, Thomas?
I'm okay. California's really weird. Our governor is out running around, making a fool out of himself, like everywhere he goes. And okay, Kamala Harris has announced that she's not running for governor after he goes. So we're gonna get one of the fifth stringers. We're gonna get like Anthony VR, I guess he goes by now. He used to be named after his wife, so his name was VR Rigosa, because his wife was named Rigosa.
Rigosa, yeah.
Yep. And then he got divorced, and so now he's just VR.
Ouch.
Or we're going to get one of these perennial crooks, who, like, some of the people here, they've held every office. They've worked in Los Angeles on the city council. They've been a member of the legislature. They've been some commissioner or head of some various department. And so whatever happens, nothing good is going to come from it. Because California is one of those places where people watch Stephen Colbert, and
all four of them.
Well, he called for a protest to protest the fact that his show's being canceled. 20 people showed up, and then they were so embarrassed that they were only 20 people. They started leaving, and he was left virtually alone.
That's fine. He is, after all, the only person affected by it.
And you were mentioning the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Democrats always told us that the amount of federal money given to these public broadcasting stations was small in comparison to the donation, so we shouldn't complain. Well, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting has announced that it's closing its doors now that the federal funds have been cut. And if we cut funds from PBS and NPR, they're going to close too, because they don't get any money in donations.
They're going to stink like a lead balloon. These people even bragged. They taunted us. Oh, if you want to defund it. It's peanuts. It's nothing. It's not a major contribution. This is sustained by the viewers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I see. Bye-bye, assholes. This is what happens to people who lie.
Also, leftists don't make donations, and they don't like to pay their taxes, despite claiming that high taxes are very moral. And they don't make donations. The Democratic Party, once all the federal funding that was being done under the table, rather, once all of that is gone, they're going to be relying wholly on donations from leftist billionaires who are all insane. They're all young and they're all crazy. And the Democratic Party is currently the schism between the establishment Democrats and the what would you call them, the Democratic Socialists. That schism is growing.
Yeah.
And the Democratic Socialists are going to win because the establishment doesn't have enough donors to give money to stop someone like Mamdani or the guy running for mayor of Minneapolis.
Oh yeah, that is Somali.
Yeah, he's openly running for the mayor of Mogadishu, and It's really funny. All these Somalis who were these Somali would-be politicians who were talking about the wonderful homeland. Somalia is a disaster. Somalia is a collection of clans who all murder each other and chew leaves. That's what Somalia is. And yeah, I don't know if you ever saw the movie that
Provided somebody gives and believes.
Yeah, Ridley Scott made a movie called Black Hawk Down, and the movie
Oh yes.
opens with American Delta Force troops, special operators, capturing a Somali warlord, and he starts lecturing the American general about, just because I was raised in a house without running water, don't think I don't know about world politics, and so we're being warned by this guy that and he offers the general a Cuban cigar, and he drives a Mercedes, and he's a man of the world.
Oh yeah.
That such Somali doesn't exist. The only Somalis who are like that are the ones who've basically turned their back on the home country. They are Americans. There's plenty of patriotic Somali Americans who, this is their home. But we went after a warlord named Adid, and we didn't catch him. He ended up getting killed. His son was a U.S. Marine living in the United States, and he gave up his place here, and he went back to Somalia to become a warlord. Trained in America, a Marine, but the call of the clan brought him back.
I would think just about everybody who was in charge of background checks for recruiting in this country in the past 20 years and locked them up in Guantanamo.
Mm-hmm.
What they have done, I mean, the number of assholes, of enemies of this country that we have trained and prepared so they can fight us better. From Adid's son to Camilo Ernesto Mejia, and all of these assholes. How come we keep getting Marxist trash into our armies or armed forces ranks?
Well, I was thinking about that today. There's so much talk going on about the West and its various issues, and I've lived in, let's see, Venezuela, the United States, Netherlands, Great Britain, Norway, Japan. I've lived in 6 countries, and I've visited probably, I don't know, 40. And this is the best country in the world.
Oh God.
And there's no doubt about it. And we have a few cultural traits that are unique. One is that every now and then Americans decide that they want to flirt with destroying the United States. And they walk right up to the edge of the abyss and they peer down in it. And then they go, nah, no. And then they back off and they make a 180-degree turn. We've done this multiple times. The second thing we do is every time we win a war, we instantly unilaterally disarm. And we make ourselves completely vulnerable to anybody. After World War I, at some point during the interwar years, the U.S. Army got down to 100,000 men. And it was because, war is bad. Americans hate war. The rest of the world accuses us of being war lovers. We hate war.
Sometimes, Thomas, we don't wait till the end of the war. We do it in the middle of it. Carter destroyed our armed forces in the middle of a Cold War.
Yeah. And we do it, and we do it, and we do it, and then we undo it, and we undo it. And the people responsible for all this are the precious independents who, I don't vote for the policy, I vote for the man. And it's like, it's because of you guys. And I myself am technically an independent. In California, I'm called a declined estate since they don't belong to either party.
Right.
But I don't view myself as superior to Republicans. I just haven't joined because I'm not a joiner. And the independents, you know, you vote for Trump and then you turn around and vote for Kamala Harris because you're superior to the rest of us. No, you're crazy. You're the people who make us occasionally isolationist, and you're the people who cause the government to get rid of the federal borders. I mean, you're crazy. You're the people doing all the damage, and I don't know. I just, you know,
don't let the Democrats off the hook. These people
True.
are doing all the damage too.
But see, they need the independents. The country is split 30 odd percent Democrats,
Yep.
a little less now, 30 odd percent independents, and 30 odd percent Republicans gaining. And it's always down to the independents who decide elections. And their decision-making process is dysfunctional. It makes no sense at all. They're like children who stamp their feet when they don't get their own way. They're like, okay, Britain, they go for the Tories. The Tories screw up, so they go, you know, they elect Labor. And I know technically they didn't elect Labor.
Yeah, but in practice they did.
They did, and this is craziness.
And by the way, technically, you and I discussed this. They didn't elect Labour because 60% of the people of England voted for something else.
Exactly.
Like 60% of the people of the US voted conservative, and Clinton got to the White House.
Mm.
Divide et impera. But the thing is that I would expect of an informed citizenry to, when push comes to shove, vote for the candidate who will win, not make a point at the polls so that the fucking communists get a majority.
Yeah. Remember, in the first Trump administration, we had a real chance of getting, was it a Senate seat? It was somewhere in New England, and the guy ended running was a madman. The guy on our side, like the guy who Trump endorsed, lost, and the guy he was some former colonel in the Air Force, and he was just off his rocker, and he was smashed into the ground because he was running in New England.
The same thing with Moore in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with I'm not a witch in Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with the assholes in Indiana and Missouri that decided to campaign on the basis that we don't need to allow for abortions for women who are victims of rape, because no victim of rape ever gets pregnant because God wouldn't allow it. That was a campaign issue for these imbeciles.
Well,
The end result is that Missouri elected a Democrat bitch for the first time in 40 years.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we allowing? Why don't parties, and the same applies to the Democrats, by the way, why don't parties act as political parties and filter who the fuck can bring the brand to an election?
Well, I saw a movie last night, and it wasn't a good movie at all. It's called Under Paris, and it was about gigantic mako sharks that had somehow not only
got into the Seine. I saw that in the catacombs.
Yep, they adapted to fresh water, but also parthenogenesis. So there was a giant mother who was spewing out baby sharks, and these sharks were themselves spewing out baby sharks, even though they were themselves babies. And so the French decided they were going to have a sane swimming, a triathlon in Paris.
In the Seine, to show it was now clean.
To show it was now clean. And I didn't, the beginning of the movie was really irritating because it's all about save the ocean. And there were these activists. And at some point, one of the activists was in the catacombs, and this 3-foot-long mako shark that had just been born sort of came up to her, and she was hugging it and patting it on the head. And the ichthyologist, who's the hero of the movie, was yelling at her, what are you doing? You're insane. That's a newborn. The mother's getting, and the activist is yelling, sharks are harmless. And of course she's killed 3 seconds later. But the mayor,
by a humongous fucking mama.
Right. And the mayor of Paris, when she's told, we've got mako sharks in the water, she gives a press conference where she says all species are welcome in Paris. And so, of course, at the end of the movie, the sharks take over the world. Can't have much of a sequel to that movie because they're everywhere. Like, unless as the credits roll, they start showing the sharks spreading all over the planet. And
because one of the sharks, they bombed the catacombs to end this infestation. One of the sharks managed to get out, and it's going to reproduce. But, at one point, I actually thought it was a poorly executed satire.
Yeah. I see. What got me was the scene with the activist in the water, and she's a one-issue voter. And when they find out there's a mako shark, they discovered the mako shark was in the Seine because this shark had been tagged. And so the activists, they get all hysterical because the cops are going to kill her. They're in love with the giant mako shark that's going to destroy every ecosystem on the planet. And so they turn off the tracking device so that the cops can't find her. And then they go into the catacombs themselves, and they're going to gently guide the shark back to the ocean. And that part was definitely satire because all the activists ended up getting eaten.
Yes.
But as I was watching all of this, I was saying to myself, this isn't really satire because this is how people vote. This is how people behave. This is how people think. We welcome all creatures to our ecosystem. Okay, ask the Australians how that turned out with their feral cats and their rabbits. Remember the newsreel footage of millions and millions of rabbits that were just eating everything in sight?
It's like a Monty Python movie. The rabbit thing in Australia was hilarious.
Yeah. The thing is, you can't be a single issue voter because that means you're a dummy, and you have to make compromises with yourself. You can't have a completely uncompromising position about something because then you're just going to keep losing. Because
that's the problem with conservatives and Republicans in this country. Most of them are single issue voters. This one is against abortion. That one is against taxes. That one over there is against eminent domain. That one over there doesn't want the Fed. And they don't give a flying crap about anything else than their own pet peeve.
Well, that's the thing. It's a pet peeve because when you come down to it, most of these single issues have no impact on the lives of the people who have made it this issue is their bête noire, that this is what they eat, drink, and sleep, is this one issue. And and it doesn't actually impact them personally. On the other hand, we all saw how the Biden administration impacted us personally. Um, okay, there's all this talk. I haven't been following it because I don't care. Ghislaine Maxwell is what? She's gonna
She's being moved to a prison in Texas.
Okay, but is she gonna testify to Congress and spill the beans? What's going on with?
I don't know. The thing is, she was in a prison near Tallahassee, Florida, and she's been talking to the DOJ. What are the terms of what she told the DOJ? Is for them to know and the rest of us to speculate idly. Nobody knows. Whoever tells you they know, they're lying. They're just clickbaiting the living shit out of it. But there are conversations, and probably as a result of those conversations, she's been moved to a low security prison
A
in
country
Texas.
club.
Yeah, which, by the way, why wasn't she already there?
Yeah, I mean, she's not a danger
She's,
to. I mean, okay,
she's not a gangbanger for granted fucking.
she's not a gangbanger, and she didn't go out in a black van with a crew full of guys in balaclavas snatching young girls off the street.
When she was arrested, if I recall, she was found sitting in her living room. Didn't oppose any resistance.
Yeah.
She could have flown anywhere in the planet, and we'd still be looking for her. But at one point, she went, like, oh, okay, you got me, take me.
Also, she could have threatened the hell out of everybody if she's the one with the little black book that will bring down entire governments. Why is she in jail?
Yeah. Somebody said in the chat, Trump can use her knowledge. If she had any knowledge, she wouldn't be in prison for crying out fucking loud.
Yeah. She would have just picked up the phone and said,
you get me the fuck out of here or I'm spilling the beans. And she'll either be dead or free.
Well, this is the thing that okay, and anybody who's got information that can bring down governments, they let everybody know if anything happens to me, there's a dead man switch where all this stuff is going to get released. Yes. So my prediction is that
if she didn't have anything, she'd be sitting down in some commune in India, licking every teenager she can find until she died of happiness and bliss.
Well, my prediction is that nothing's going to come of all of this. We're not going to see,
of course not,
a client list, because I don't think that's how Epstein operated. He wasn't a pimp. And what Maxwell did apparently was the family of the one who committed suicide, who claimed that Alan Dershowitz, was a client.
Jufre, she was off her rocker.
Her family is protesting Maxwell being moved to a cushier prison. But I mean, the way Epstein and Maxwell are presented is that they ran this gigantic prostitution ring, which they didn't. I mean, that's all there is to it. Epstein made money for people, and he was obsessed. I recommend that everybody watch Epstein's deposition. The guy sounds like he's got about an 85 IQ, and there are people with 85 IQs who know how to make tons of money and who can't do anything else. Epstein sounds like one of them.
I met a lot of them. In Wall Street, 80% of the money managers and financial advisors are precisely what you're describing. A
Yeah.
75 to 85 IQ moron who actually knows how to do two things right. And
And
that's it.
and Maxwell was the pampered, hysterical daughter of Robert Maxwell, who was a newspaperman. Is that what he
Oh,
was?
look, he was more than, yeah, he was a newspaper. I think he owned the Sun. He owned TV stations, newspapers, uh, retail, real estate. He was a tycoon uh,
He was a
of major proportions.
he was a tycoon, and he was a supremely unimportant man who had no he left behind no impact. Like
No,
even if he hadn't become president, Donald Trump would have left behind an incredible legacy of change. And Maxwell fell off his yacht years ago, and it
yeah,
was just like, wasn't
in
he?
the 80s, I think it was.
And he was already, hadn't he lost much of his fortune? I mean, he was down to his last 100 million or whatever, but hadn't he lost a hell of a lot of his fortune by then?
He had lost fortune. There was a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, everybody goes through a crisis every now and
True.
then. They usually refinance. If you owe your bank 10 grand and you cannot pay, you're in a shitload of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
If you owe your bank 5 billion and you cannot pay, they are in a shitload of trouble, and they're going to bend over backwards to refinance because the last thing they want to do is put 5 billion in the loss column this quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably could have solved most of his problems. It, and there was speculation at the time whether he committed suicide, whether he was off. I mean, the usual things, since nobody knows shit. All we know is that now he's here, now he's not. So, was he pushed? Did he jump? Nobody knows.
Well, he was in terrible health, and
Yes.
his daughter. Okay, I don't think people really understand. They can't appreciate how important it is to a certain segment of society to be a certain segment of society. You heard of the kiss cam where the CEO and the human resources woman were caught having an affair, and they lost their jobs, and et cetera, et cetera. She was married. She is currently married to one of the Boston Brahmins. She's married to a Cabot, and the Cabot is like the oldest. The Cabots are like some of the oldest and largest amounts of money in the U.S.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And
there is a branch of the Cabots. I knew very well John Cabot. He was the head of Cabot Industries. They're very old money in Massachusetts. They're not as powerful as they once were.
mm,
These are pure breed Brahmins. And they claim descent from John Cabot, the guy who explored the Hudson River.
right,
So,
and
yeah,
these people
blue Massachusetts blood.
these people are incredibly insular. The number of people who they hang out with is minuscule compared to someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, who knew literally thousands of people.
Yep.
And Mr. Cabot, the husband of this disgraced human resources officer, hasn't said a word. And what I've heard is that if you are in her situation among the Brahmins, they instantly make you an unperson.
Oh, they drop you like a soiled bit of toilet paper.
And her problem was that she married into this group of people who don't flaunt their money, and they don't go out to parties hosted by Diddy. And she wanted some excitement, man. So she got all the excitement she needed. And, the that's the difference between Maxwell and somebody else. Okay, Trump puts on a show, but he's on record. If again, I learned everything I needed to know about Trump by reading this article, "The Expanding Empire of Donald Trump," in New York Magazine, which New York Times Magazine, I think the New York Times Magazine. And it was published in 1984, and he was talking about how ridiculous so much of his life was, and essentially admitting that he had to do it in order to get clients. And
that's the moment. 83 is the moment that Donald Trump broke into the big leagues.
Mm-hmm. No, and he was claiming, okay, he took the reporter through and showed him his gold-plated office and his piano and everything. And he said, it's all cute, but what does it mean? What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. And you would never get a thought like that out of Ghislaine Maxwell or Epstein. Epstein would never say to you that his lifestyle was a ridiculous waste of time, because to him it wasn't.
It was everything to him.
Exactly.
It was everything to him. Trump, by the way, is not no money.
Mm-hmm.
His third generation.
Mm-hmm.
His grandfather made a shitload in the West. It's a funny thing, He first came in the late 1800s, and instead of, and by the way, very clever German merchant, practical. Instead of chasing gold in the mountains and trying to keep it, he's the guy who opened the store selling shit to the miners.
At 10 times the price
at
of
10
what?
times the price that he paid for in the city. Now, when you think of it, it's great. That's how you make money, because I suppose that the saloon would have been the same thing. The miners go out, they get some gold, they plant the splash, they go to spend the money, and if you're the one selling to the crowd, it doesn't matter who finds the gold, you get your share anyway.
And the majority of those gold miners would come in, cash out their gold, and blow it all.
And blow it all on people like Grandpa Trump. And then he returned to Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And then Germany went to shit in a handbasket. And so he came back to the U.S. And that's why Trump's father was born in the U.S. And he used some of his father's money to operate building low-income housing with government support. Now, no projects. I never lived in one of those buildings, but I've been to many of the buildings that Trump built along Queens Boulevard, and they're like middle class, unpretentious buildings proper for working people in Queens. And that would have been Trump's future if he didn't figure out he wanted to get in the big leagues, and he got in the big leagues big fucking way. It's called Trump Tower.
Mm-hmm.
It put him on it built a tower that people said could not be built.
Mm-hmm.
In a place they say he would never be allowed to. And from one day and then he put his own penthouse on top.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he's one more builder, and the next day he is the guy everybody in New York wants to do business with.
One of the things he did was he said no to the mafia. And yes, the mafia had cornered the market on concrete in New York City. And if you wanted to build anything, you had to pay off the mafia in order to get your concrete. And, Trump had people on his side who were scarier than the mafia. And also Trump when Trump, what's that? It's a pier in New Jersey, or not a pier, something. It's a big, giant tourist attraction in New Jersey with casinos and
Oh, Atlantic City.
Atlantic City. Yeah,
Yeah, and
Trump.
he built two casinos in the boardwalk there.
Yeah, before he went there, he went to the FBI and figured
Yeah.
out how to beat the mafia in Atlantic City too. So,
One was the Taj Mahal, I think.
yep. And Trump is a serious person who's wrapped his rapper. Everybody talks about his hair. He did a what was called the ice bucket challenge, where you would have a giant bucket of ice water dumped on you, and it was some charitable situation. But two models dumped, and this was early thousands,
Mm-hmm.
mid thousands. But he had the water dumped on him, and then he swept his hair back. He's got a full head of hair. He
Well,
doesn't have a comb.
he did 25 years ago. I don't know today.
Well, it's his hair is a trademark, but it's not a comb over. It's something else. I've seen him with swept back hair. In his first term, he showed up on a stage once, and it was an unscheduled appearance, and his hair was swept completely back, and he had a hairline. It was swept backwards, and so you never know with Trump, because he keeps the real Trump private. And someone like Epstein, there was no real Epstein. I mean, what you saw was what you got, and that I had never heard him speak. I'd only seen photos of him with that little smirk, and he was this sort of this kind of nebulous figure, this enigmatic figure to me. And then once I watched his deposition, I just went, this guy's a fucking idiot. They asked him about his egg-shaped penis, and he almost got up and stomped out of the room. And he was daring them to say, come back. And nobody said anything, so he came back on his own. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, the guy, and again, you don't need to be a very intelligent person to be an effective money manager.
No,
Eh, And most aren't. He must have been a good one because people with money tended to gravitate to him. And he must have been relatively honest because otherwise he would have ended up like Bernie Madoff,
yeah,
but or John Corsai. So I don't know. And oh my God, he had properties all over the place. Well, yeah, that's what they do.
that's what
He
they
had an
do.
apart. He had an apartment in Paris. My friend Wes had an apartment in Paris because he was going there for business to tend to his clients in Europe, and he had an apartment, and he let me use it every now and then.
Well, our side, people on our side, not our side in general, have made him into this supervillain. This is a guy who had a giant painting of Bill Clinton in a blue dress. Like that was that painting dominated his apartment in New York. This is not a supervillain. This is a guy who would look at that painting and go, it was like
Yeah,
something you would buy at a garage sale. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was embarrassing. People were creeped out. Oh my God. What does this mean? Well, it means that Epstein had no taste whatsoever. And he had that painting up there because he thought it was funny. Um,
uh,
that's all
so-
it is.
somebody in the chat says that Epstein has some videos interacting that Bannon has some videos interacting with Epstein. He interacted a shitload with Epstein, baby. He lived for nearly 3 months in Epstein's apartment in Paris. Okay, I wonder what's going to happen if some people were to know what the loudest assholes of the Epstein thing turns out were the closest relations to Epstein.
Well, see, Epstein loved famous, powerful people, and he wanted to rub elbows with them. And this is how these people are. They're not the Boston Brahmins who have no desire to rub elbows with
On the
anyone.
contrary,
Exactly. The Boston Brahmins keep to themselves, but it's entirely possible to discover that your fishing buddy is a Boston Brahmin and he never brought it up
no.
because it's they're just a different breed. Epstein would never go bowling with you or fishing with you because the first thing he would want to know is what can you give him? What's he going to get out of it? And that's why that princess von Sturm und Praxis, who speaks perfect American English, said that she despised him because he was just this goomba from Queens. And
I'm thinking of the word in Spanish, but he's a, he was an archetypical social climber.
mhm,
Old money and royalty look down upon archetypical social climbers with something akin to profound disgust.
mhm,
They won't open the doors to them. Every now and then they have to deal with them because they have to make an investment, or and the regular guy say this guy is good for this. And then they wash their hands and make sure they don't touch anything until they wash their hands to get that slime out of them. Um, these are not people who are favored by old money. And like you said about the Brahmins and others, um, they're very open. Although in some instances, you find after quite some time that this friend that you're hitting on rather well. One day I'm standing in line to go to enter the Louvre in Paris, and I'm there with my then first wife. And suddenly somebody says, "Hey, hello," and it turns out to be this guy, about three people behind us, who knew her from a social event in New York. And we started talking, and then we started going around Paris together. He was there with his wife. Uh, so we kind of went to restaurants and places together. It turns out the son of a bitch was a Rockefeller.
mhm.
With when he told me after 3 or 4 months, come to my office. We'll figure out where we go. And I go to his office. It was a half a fucking floor at the Rockefeller Center.
Mhm.
Now he wasn't into finances. He did something else. I'm not gonna give you on air much detailed information because people will know who he is. But the thing is that very agreeable son of a bitch. And eventually I get an invitation to go on the weekend to his family house in Cape fucking Cod.
Mhm.
Until I got those invitations, I didn't know who or what he was because
Mhm.
he looked and behaved like a normal fucking person.
Mhm.
So that's something. Don't be surprised to find an older, uh, uh, my cousins from Salem, God forbid. Uh, you see the 80 years old with a polyester jacket
Mm-hmm.
because they bought one when it was fashionable in the 70s and it still fits.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I get a new one? Now the
No,
guy
it's
has a trust fund with $700 million, but why would I waste money on a new jacket when this one fits?
well, I saw something. I saw a Netflix documentary, a 3-part documentary about the serial killer, the son of Sam, and
Mm.
it was really fascinating because the he agreed to give an interview with a New York Post reporter in 1980. He was arrested in 77, I believe,
Yes,
and
I remember that interview, brother.
he said prior to his trial that I can't remember if he had a trial or if he pled guilty or just whatever, but no, he had a trial. You're right. And on the day of sentencing, he started shrieking that he would do it all over again. Everything the son of Sam, he was urged to do this by a 6,000-year-old demon living in his
In a
neighbor's
dog.
son's dog and all that.
Yeah.
He made it all up. The whole everything, the murder spree, everything was to get attention. And listening to this guy talk, he would end every sentence with "you see" and "you understand." He sounded like a guy from the 19th century. And everything about this documentary, it may as well have happened 150 years ago. The technology, like they couldn't catch him. The boroughs in New York didn't communicate with each other. So he had murdered people in 3 different boroughs, and it was only uh, uh, purely by chance. He used a very specialized gun that fired very large bullets. And one of the cops just happened to be there. And he said, "Oh, we had one like this in our borough." And then, they found it. It was connected purely by chance. And what I realized was that, okay, the son of Sam murderer is still alive. Now he claims he's a born again Christian and he's repented and all that. But in
Not dying
1992,
priest.
he claimed he was part of a cult, and that the murders were committed by others, and he only committed some of them. And one of the detectives they interviewed said
No,
all the murders stopped when we arrested him, and there's never been a single son of Sam type murder
no,
in the entire
not
country.
even a copycat.
Exactly. So I was watching all this, and I was just marveling at how otherworldly this was. It was all from a different era, and this idiot who took out. He claimed that it was the movie Taxi Driver that finally pushed him over the edge, and he realized that he could take out his rage on the world because actually, look at Taxi Driver's a good movie and everybody loves it, so they'll love me too. Just excuse after excuse, and
You're talking to me.
exactly that was the scene that
It became
was
part of New York's folklore.
right. And I was just watching all this, and I was just really marveling at so much. Like our politicians, so many of them are from a different era, and
Some are from a different planet.
some are from a different planet,
I'm
some are
I'm
from a
com- I'm convinced that the 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 Baldy Beach from Massachusetts is from some unknown planet.
I forgot her name, the one who shaved her head because she claims she has alopecia.
Yeah, bullshit. Yeah, I mean, not bullshit you, bullshit. She doesn't have alopecia. She's just
Yeah, I don't
trying to
know.
look different.
A lot of what they were talking about in in this documentary, that the murder started in 1976, and they had people who they were interviewing, reporters, who were saying the same shit that they're saying today. So this has been going on, like the same complaints, the same societal complaints, the same, you know, it's a hamster running on a wheel. And the thing about Trump is that Trump reached into the hamster cage and he took the wheel out and he told the hamster, do something different, for Christ's sake. Um, and I think it's great. I'm not worried about the future at all. I'm fascinated by what's going on, and I'm you know, I'm hoping I live to be 100 years old because I want to see what the world looks like in the future. I'm not sputtering around in the past. Like Son of Sam he's almost this irrelevant historical figure. He's he hasn't been outdoors since 1977, so he's sheet white and he shaved his head too, but he still sounds exactly the same. He's got this weird Brooklyn accent, and he talks like a guy who was born in 1847, and it was just really odd. I didn't know a lot of the stuff about him that I didn't know he was in the army and that he was stationed in Korea, and he was 3 years in the army, so he spent 3 years doing LSD and mescaline and all these other mind destroying drugs. But it was just really eerie to see all these reporters. Some of them, they're like 81 years old, and they're still on the same complaints. They're still talking about New York City in a way like if only we do this, then New York City will be heaven on earth. And it's like,
Yeah.
have you looked out the window? Like
if we only elected a terrorist-loving anti-Semite, anti-American asshole from fucking Uganda, things would get better.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, okay. Did you hear J.D. Vance talking about Sydney Sweeney? He was
No,
he was urging the Democrats to keep going. He said,
please
here's
do.
this here's this beautiful young woman wearing blue jeans, and the left is calling her a Nazi as they're reaching out to try and get young men back into their party. So he's saying they've learned nothing. They're worse now than they were, 6 months ago. And I urge them to keep on being this insane because it's going to cost them elections.
Please do. Yeah, I think we have to keep it alive. There was another black woman who came up, that what is this sweetie girl doing? Jeans were invented by black folk. One guy from Germany and another one from Latvia.
And they were both black.
And they were both whiter than my ass, which is the whitest part of my body, incidentally, because it never sees the light of the sun. And and German and Latvian immigrants came up with the thing. One decided to use the sailcloth, and the other one came out with the rivets. And now they're black.
Well,
Amazing,
this
isn't it?
says that, yeah, you're right. A Latvian named Jacob W. Davis created the first rivet reinforced blue jeans in the year 1873.
Yeah. Davis was his new American name.
Exactly.
His original name was something like Utah or some shit like that. He was from Latvia.
Well, have you noticed that you hear all this stuff? Blacks invented everything, but the same people, they don't know about like the real, like they couldn't tell you the name of the first black combat pilot. The first black combat pilot was a guy from Louisiana, and he
Yeah.
fought in World War One. He flew for the French, but he was an American. They never heard of this guy. It's I don't know. This is so bizarre. Like having to it's embarrassing. Like, okay, look at Sydney Sweeney's commercials. If you look at her,
my genes.
well, if you look at her, you don't think Aryan Aryan German. That's the last thing you think. She's got honey-colored hair. Her eyes are a dark shade of blue. Her skin is more tan than pale. I don't know. It's just bizarre.
You think of the girl next door.
Exactly. You think of the American Girl Next Door, because she's not like she bears no resemblance to a model, for example.
No.
She's not a classic beauty. She's got her own thing going. And okay, Dunkin' Donuts immediately put out their own jeans ad. The guy was talking about his jeans. He's some Netflix actor, and talking about donuts and his own jeans. So that tells you that companies think this is a pretty winning strategy.
It is. And by the way, in all of this stupid argument, there were a couple of things that were lost. One, it was a clever play on words.
Mm-hmm.
It's in my genes. Is it your genes as in genetics, or your genes as in your pants? What makes you look good? My
Mm-hmm.
genes. Take your pick. It's a classic play on words. It's clever, and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it should have made people chuckle a little bit and move on. No, they have to make this the hill they want to die on. Welcome, asshole. I don't care what hill they choose to die on, as long as they do it.
Well, when you're a 300-pound woman with multicolored hair and a ring nose, and you're criticizing Sydney Sweeney, nobody's going to listen to you. Nobody's going to listen.
But all of us are going to laugh at you.
It's the weirdest thing. And then another thing about those ads. Years ago, some burger chain, they did a whole bunch of commercials with Paris Hilton eating some giant greasy cheeseburger, and she was like washing her car and then eating burger and dripping goo all over it, and she was wearing cut off jeans that looked like they'd been sucked up inside her butt, and it was just as close as you could get to pornography without being pornography.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sydney Sweeney ads, there's one where she's at the hood of a car.
They're almost wholesome in comparison.
Yeah, she closes the hood and she's wearing a white T-shirt and jeans.
Yeah.
And, it's everything is changing. And I think it's changes for the good, changes for the better. Because for years now, okay, there was some model who's complaining now that she's not getting any work. She weighs like 500 pounds. And when she was getting work, she would be out on the runway, and she was shaped like this. And there's nobody in the world who thinks that's beautiful.
What was
And
it modeling? Circus tents?
all she could wear were giant cloths that were draped over her. And now she's complaining that she can't get any work. And it's like, because you weigh 500 pounds. You were a fad. Okay, the jeans company, the Sydney Sweeney, American Eagle.
I was going to say that.
In 2019, their model was a black woman who was a 300 pounder, and her rear end was about 5 feet wide. So,
Well, you could park your motorcycle in it.
It was a fad, and everybody went along to get along, and now it's over, and something else has taken over. So,
Listen,
that's what happens.
There is a principle in advertising that is, Ed Bernays would tell you that in good advertising doesn't directly sell product. They sell a lifestyle, and then people will want to buy that product to live that lifestyle. Exactly what are they selling with the 500-pound baby whales? Who wants to look like that? Is there anybody out there who would look at a half-a-ton woman and say, "Oh, I want to look like that. Maybe I should be wearing the same jeans"? If there's anybody who thinks like that, they're probably already in the house for the, terminally crazy.
You have to really dedicate yourself to eating to get that huge. And there were all these body positive influencers, really young women, 23, and they've come down with every illness that's associated with morbid obesity, heart trouble, diabetes, joint trouble, and they're all heartbroken because nobody told them this was going to happen. And it's like, they didn't have to tell you this was going to happen. You should have known. If you pack on 250 extra pounds of pure fat, and your diet consists of nothing but saturated fat, you're going to wreck your body. I just had a physical, and I'm fine. I was never a guy to have regular physicals, and I've decided, you know what? I'm going to start having regular physicals. So everything's fine. I'm about to turn 63 in a few days, and I feel good. And yeah, exactly. I don't feel any different than I ever have. I know I'm an old man now, but I don't feel like one. And I knew when I was 23 that if I ate nothing but saturated fat, I was going to end up being gigantic. And I wouldn't blame it on these poor young women are blaming it on everybody else. And it's like, blame yourself. And a lot of their mentors all dropped dead. The fat influencers died. And the ones that lost the weight, then
you do not find that surprising, do you?
What's that?
You do not find that surprising, do you?
No. And the thing about all of this is, let's say you lose the weight, then you have to get all the skin removed. And that's horrific. They cut off the skin, and then they wrap you in this girdle that you have to wear for like 6 or 8 months. It's shocking what damage you can do to yourself, and it's your own doing. You can't blame it on anybody else. Yeah. That woman that the Democrats hired to try and get young men back into the party, she's a super obnoxious, obese woman, and it's like, how is this going to? What are you people thinking? Who are you going to bring into the party this way? You're not going to bring anyone into the party.
Maybe they should put Donna Brazili in a bikini to attract men.
Remember those ads they put out with all the fake real men who were going to vote for Kamala, and they were all like gay Los Angeles based actors.
Yes.
I ate carburetors for lunch. It was so embarrassing and so, I don't know. It just, my mind boggled.
I remember the ad. I don't remember much about the specifics because it came into my eyes and out of my asshole in seconds. I
There
didn't
was a
register.
farmer. There was a fake farmer sitting on the door of his pickup truck. He pulled it down, and he was sitting with his legs wrapped around each other, with his hands on his knees. So he looked like he was at having tea. There was a 450-pound mechanic with a cowboy hat. There was a weightlifter. And they were all real men, and they weren't afraid to vote for women. And it was just,
Yeah.
oh,
If only one were running. Incidentally, speaking of the thing that the Democrats ran last time, who do you think gave her an offer she couldn't refuse?
no idea.
Because somebody pushed her off the cliff.
Well, what did I just hear today that the Biden's aides are threatening if she has any dirt against Biden, they're going to release all the dirt on her to make her look like the idiot she is.
Ooh, lovely.
Yeah. So again, they're going to have another civil war over this.
Yeah, somebody's got her by the balls, and her, a woman of her unbounded idiocy and unbridled ambition. That should step aside. Just because I want to travel and talk to people. I'm not buying it.
I just can't believe that they thought she was going to win, and they thought she was going to win in a landslide. They thought they had it made.
Well, until somebody actually did a serious poll, and they decided that it wasn't worth the embarrassment. Because, you know,
She
can you
definitely thought.
imagine?
Huh?
Hmm?
Go ahead.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine she going for the governorship in California and getting her ass plastered?
See, California is really different because Californians pride themselves on making really bad decisions, and it shows how superior they are. They make really bad decisions because they're smarter than the rest of us.
Hmm.
And this has been around for ages. It started really hitting hard in the late 90s and early 2000s. You started reading these articles about the entertainment industry. I was in the entertainment industry until 2002, I think. And everybody knew that the music industry was screwing up big time. And yet what they started doing was they started putting impossible demands on musicians. If your single didn't hit the top 10 in 3 weeks, you were dropped from the label. I mean, that's just insanity. Frank Sinatra's reprise records, they would sign artists because they felt that in 5 years this artist would be really great, and they wanted to get him early.
Yes.
And at the end of my career in the music industry, they were giving you 3 weeks to hit the charts, or else you'd be dropped by the label.
Or out. Yep.
You were out. That's insanity. So it was during that period that every record that was a hit was a novelty record, and not a single one of those artists, ever did any. They had one little charted, one hit that charted, and then they all disappeared, and
Yep.
and everyone was getting fired. If, let's say, you sign somebody, and then they didn't hit the chart.
I'll be right back, my friend.
No. So you sign somebody and they didn't chart in 3 weeks, then every single person involved in signing that entertainer, that musician, would be fired. So then the next people coming in, they would say, I don't want to get fired, so I'm going to go for an even lower common denominator. So that's why we had acts like Alien Ant Farm doing a Michael Jackson cover. And my magazine wrote about the bassist. And there were so many people, I won't name any of them, but so many people were featured in that magazine that I mean, they had no potential. They had absolutely no potential. But the magazine and the advertisers and the record companies were all colluding to try and create an act, and that doesn't happen. If you look at the old days, like there's a documentary about Led Zeppelin on Netflix right now, and what I didn't know is that the bassist and the guitarist played on the recording of the Goldfinger theme song. Goldfinger. These guys were studio musicians in their teens, and they built themselves up step by step by step by step by step, and they were absolutely brilliant in that. Jimmy Page, the guitarist, he kept the rights to all Led Zeppelin songs. And so that's why Led Zeppelin, there's 3 of them still alive, and the family of the drummer, I mean, they're never going to be out on the streets, because 50 years later, Led Zeppelin sounds like it was recorded yesterday. But a lot of the bands that they had their little one hit in the late 90s and early thousands, they disappeared. And
they were like the monkeys without the sympathy.
Oh, yeah. No, I interviewed a bassist.
Yeah.
I interviewed a bassist, and she admitted to me that she didn't play the bass on their debut album. So I didn't know what to do. So I paused the interview and went and called my editor, and he said, well, just stop it and we'll deal with it. I'll talk to the record company. So they took me off the story, and they put on somebody else who went along with the charade. But she didn't play on the debut album. Somebody else did. And I thought that was very, very, very dishonest. But
well, I understand that George Harrison got to learn a little bit about drums before they use them in recordings.
well, it's I don't know. I don't have anything against modern music if it's good, and a lot of the music that is written for, say, Netflix movies, some of that is brilliant, and it's brand new. movies made in 24, 25.
Yep.
So I have nothing against new music, but all of this was based in California along with the movie industry. And the movie industry is, it's in trouble. It wants bailouts. Movies are part of everybody's lives. You shouldn't be able to go out of business if you're in the movie industry, but they're managing to do it. Californians pride themselves on their bad decisions.
Yes, and there are more movies being produced now
Yes.
than at any time in history. There are, surprisingly enough, a whole bunch of good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And also miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished watching one, Costa. It's filmed in Athens by an Italian crew. It's fascinating,
Mm-hmm.
really fascinating. There are about six episodes. Each one is about 2 hours plus. So each episode is a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Hollywood where the thing is not working.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that people don't watch movies. They may not go to the theater because, frankly, I'm not going to pay $100 to listen to the guy next door on the next seat farting. It, but Hollywood is fucking it up. These
Mm-hmm.
idiots should have owned it. And they decided to castigate us with bromides and global warming campaigns and, gender studies adapted to the screen. And eventually people said, fuck it. I don't care anymore.
Well, one of the crucial mistakes they made was they started substituting women for male roles. So you would have a female superhero,
Yeah.
and it just didn't work because it was every other line of dialogue was her telling some dude, don't talk down to me, that sort of thing. I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man, that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
they have bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb.
And then you have the list, in every movie there has to be a homosexual sex scene. By the way, I'm sick and tired of gratuitous sex in movies. I don't care whether it is man on man, woman on women, or a horse on all of them. It's stupid, and they abuse it regularly. But generally speaking, there's got to be the gay sex scene. There's got to be the trans that gains respect. I mean, enough. That's not life. That doesn't reflect the way I live or the people I meet.
There's a really good Korean actress named Duna Bae, and Duna Bae speaks fluent English, so she gets a lot of work in English speaking movies. And I saw there was is it a movie? I think it was a movie. It's called Rebel Moon by a director named Zack Snyder, and this thing got some of the worst reviews. It was a catastrophe. So I decided I was going to watch it last night, and it was unwatchable. One of the things it did was it had a lot of female nudity with women getting branded with cow irons, full nudity, and I thought, you're telling us a little bit too much about yourself, Mr. Snyder. And the acting was horrendous. The dialogue was horrendous. There wasn't a single good thing about this movie. And even poor Duna Bae had nothing to work with. But I was just amazed because like this is a huge name in Hollywood, Zack Snyder, and this was god awful. There was nothing I could recommend this movie to anyone, and it said part one. It was like, oh no, really? Oh, I I
Does
fast
that mean
forwarded.
there is a part two?
I don't know if there will be, but it I don't know. I've noticed that a lot of directors, when they get old, they start putting a lot more exploitative female nudity in their movies,
Yes,
and it's embarrassing.
for all lang syne.
Uh, I guess I don't know.
I'll never
Um,
see another one in my bedroom. Let me put her on the screen.
I guess
Yeah.
like Stanley.
No, really, I don't know. And by the way, European films are even worse.
Yeah, I watch Scandinavian noir, which is interesting, and it's way too cold for anyone to take off their clothes. So, but like Spanish, Italian, French, it's just like, whoa,
No,
please cover
Spanish,
yourselves up.
Spanish in particular is way, way, way over the top. It's like Spanish family movies today are worse than porno movies in '81. It's insane. And every single one of them has to have its 15 minutes of raw sex. I don't get it. And I think, by the way, it detracts from the story most of the time. If it works with the story, I have no problem. But it was obviously put in there so that the jack of crowd would buy the film. That's a bit too much.
Well, the problem with movies with all these scenes and everything is that there's no chemistry between the actors. Um, they're just not, you know, they're gross. They're
Yeah. No,
and
it is like 1980, early 1980s porno. Hello, do you want to fuck? Yes. Oh. And there is no chemistry, no story, no argument, nothing. Well, those are Spanish movies today.
I don't watch Spanish movies or series. I don't watch Italian. The Italians are all downers. Everybody always dies at the end of an Italian movie or series. Um, I like the Scandinavian noir. I like French.
I'll recommend a couple to you that I find more optimistic.
Yeah, I don't need downers in my life.
Yeah, no.
I'm not saying that everything has to be a happy ending. I don't mind ambiguous endings, or if the story calls for it. You know, for the Koreans have a lot of movies, revenge movies, where the guy goes out and gets revenge on everybody, and then he dies at the end. And makes sense because he wasn't a good guy, but he had to get revenge. But I don't know. I'm watching a lot of documentaries now, and I find those really. There's some really great documentaries on Netflix. A lot of documentaries about early humans. They keep finding more and more different early humans, and it's really fascinating because, like, my theory is that they all just got together into one big mess because we're way too different looking to not have had different types of humans just sort of interbreed and create, because the modern humans haven't been around long enough really to validate all these wild physical differences. then you get out like in some weird parts of the Gobi Desert where you have like redheaded people with blue eyes and super slanted eyes and round faces and freckles, and it's like, what the hell are you? You're a Chinese Irishman, you know.
Well, the Norse went everywhere, you know.
They really did, apparently.
What was it? In the early 90s, somebody found some bones, Caucasian bones, is what they said at the time, in Alaska. And they wanted to uh, do a little DNA analysis to figure out the origins because, these were 10,000 years older than the earliest ever found. So some Alaskan tribes started kicking and racing a ruckus because this is a native burial ground. You can't touch it. You cannot disturb the bones. Well, eventually it was checked, and apparently the natives were Scandinavians. And it turns out that a band of Scandinavians were already in Alaska 10,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago. I don't remember now. It's an obnoxious number. Changing at the time everything we knew about early human habitation in the Americas. Um, it wouldn't surprise me that they made it to Mongolia.
Well, I mean, science is, that idiot Al Gore. I saw somebody raising his name as a potential candidate for 2028. Al Gore, the science is settled. It seems like every 5 or 10 years they come out with more information about who actually came to the Americas. And
yeah,
my
there
favorite.
was a new one last week.
What was it?
And now I read and move on, but there was a new one last week that it was much older than the previous much oldest, and now they're trying to figure out where they came from.
Yeah. No, I think my favorite is the fact that at one point the Atlantic Ocean froze over up near the north, and a bunch of Europeans crossed over and came down into the Americas, and we found their arrowheads and some of their artifacts. So they were here. There was no evidence that they were massacred by anybody, so they obviously made friends with the locals, if the locals were here by that time. But
But what we call the locals displaced these guys eventually.
Well, I mean, the science is never settled. It shouldn't be. We're always learning.
If it is settled, it isn't science.
Yeah. No, they found another. It's between Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon, and it was all artistic. It painted, and it what was it? It made these stick figures, and they found these were in. They found them in Iraq in caves. They found them in France, and then they found them at the bottom of some cave in the Serengeti Plains. So the stick figurines are identical in spanning hundreds of thousands of years. So it's really fascinating. And I'm not afraid of science telling me that what I used to believe. Like, I remember growing up and seeing in Life magazine, or Time Life books, the book about early man and that cavemen, Neanderthals were just these goons. And
the dioramas at the Natural Science Museum in New York. I remember when I was a kid,
Yep.
they had these dioramas with life of primitive men, and it was essentially a very hairy, very brutish. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
And they were probably not very different from us in terms of they probably had languages. They had a different vocal box, but they were clearly capable of spoken words.
mm,
Um, and I find new knowledge. I find it fascinating. I'm really interested in learning stuff, and that's why you know I'm really I'm really grateful that Trump won a second term because you know this is a guy who just he's a vacuum cleaner of new information. He
mhm.
surrounds himself with people who give him new information and
And one more thing, he surrounds himself with people with opposing views.
with opposing views. Exactly.
And then these fucking idiots in the press and the Democrats, it's chaos. There's all kinds of things you don't know. Well, that's the idea. The idea is to hear different opinions. The idea is not to have some kind of closed, neat group that says what the boss wants to hear. You know, like Putin
Like Hillary.
or
You think
Obama or Hillary.
Yeah, Obama. You think anyone told Obama something he didn't want to hear? Of course not.
Of course not, not even today. He still hasn't found out that Trump won.
You know, think back to when that guy announced and they all said the same goddamn thing. They were really excited about being a part of electing the first black president. And like that had literally never occurred to me. Like his race didn't matter in the slightest to me. Um, and to hear people, that's all they all, they were going to overlook everything. Dennis Prager said that there were all these black conservative to the core ministers who were going to vote for him because they had to. We have to break that ceiling. And it's like, are you happy now? Are you happy? You got this guy. He got 2 terms. Look what he did. Are you happy? Did he really make you proud that here's one of us up there and look at the job he did? Just ridiculous.
I, I was reading, I keep an eye on the chat all the time. Eh, Lisa says that Nenders had burial ceremonies. It's true. They have very uh, uh, elaborate burial ceremonies, which shows a level of civilization, if you will. You're not going to find that with less developed animals or proto-humans. The fact that they had respect for the dead, that they worried about how they laid them out, it's very interesting. There is an excavation going on in North Africa that is fascinating. What they have discovered about the degree to which the lengths these people went to care for their dead.
Oh, is this the cave where they had to go up a mountain and then down a
Yes,
tube and then down? Yeah, exactly. And
yes, that one.
they
It,
put
it,
like
it looks like a slanted opening.
they put like a carving tool in the hand of the dead,
Yep.
which indicates that they probably had a concept of the afterlife because you'd need this tool in the afterlife. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was amazing. Those were those people were like one step above apes, but they well, it's like, okay, I saw a
They were
documentary.
one step above apes and two steps above Democrats.
Definitely. I saw something about orangutans and they're having to reevaluate how smart
Yep.
orangutans are because orangutans they're capable of thought that for example chimps aren't capable of. And
Yes.
chimps have 98% of what we have, and it's that last 2% that allows us to fly to build and fly airliners. A chimp will never build an airliner, and what chimps get off on is murdering each other.
And
we were
eating
told
their babies.
exactly. I mean, chimps. I don't like chimps at all. There's no record of an orangutan ever.
do.
I mean, I don't want them to go extinct or anything, but I don't want to be. I just don't like them. They're crazy.
Yes, they are.
I like gorillas. Gorillas are pretty amazing. I'm not a big fan of orangutans because they get those huge flaps on their faces. The males do, and
Yeah.
they've there was a zoo in Nebraska where the orangutans kept getting out in the middle of the day and just wandering the zoo, posing for photos with people, and they never did anything malicious. And they finally figured out that one of the orangutans had discovered this unused door in the moat, and he built a key out of a paperclip that he kept in his cheek during the day, and at nighttime he would pull it out and he would pick the lock with the key and open and then the next day they would go out and take walks. And this orangutan was
like him.
well, he was eventually inducted into the locksmiths union in Nebraska because they couldn't keep him in his cage. So that's how smart orangutans are.
Well, but a lot of these guys. When I was a kid, we had a capuchin. The capuchins are tiny but incredibly intelligent, and they communicate very well. The, the little son of a bitch was like Houdini.
Mm-hmm.
There was absolutely no cage that will keep him. So he
Mm-hmm.
was roaming around the house all the time. To the point that eventually he was roaming around the house with diapers and jumpers. Looked like a very hairy baby. Um, and Gonzalo, who's heard the story, says Papacho. That was his name, indeed. Um, Another one that I remember was like that was in Mexico. I had a spider monkey, very affectionate. He would run and hug and hug me, and then tell me everything that happened when I wasn't there. But wasn't too safe to be around for strangers.
Mm-hmm.
He would scratch and bite everybody he didn't know. But if you knew him and you were friends, I mean, it was very. Uh, on the other hand, he wasn't too good with tools. Uh, but they're fascinating things. They're fascinating things. And the weirdest one I had was a caí that I had in Brazil. It was about this big, literally. This was the whole monkey. The hand was so tiny, he would grab the hairs on my arm, and as I walked down the street, he would be hanging from my hairs, which was quite a conversation starters with American and European tourists.
It was like the size of a big cockroach.
Well, it has to be a very big cockroach. They are about 3 inches tall.
Wow.
Um, Salamanca says that the spider monkeys are very common in Chiapas.
Mm-hmm.
We had this one in Puerto Vallarta, but yes, he came from the south, and they are very common, and south of Mexico too, in Central America, they're pretty abundant. Um, Clint Eastwood says did a movie with an orangutan,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Ronald Reagan did, and Ronald Reagan did it with Bonzo. Um,
that Clint Eastwood did a whole series of movies where he was a bare knuckle boxer, and he had an orangutan named Clyde, and like
Yes.
that was really bizarre because like bare knuckle boxing, and those are the guys with their noses completely flattened or
Oh yeah.
turned sideways like that, and I don't like any kind of boxing or mixed martial arts or anything like that. I don't watch anything like that. The only sport I've ever watched is this Irish sport called hurling. Have you ever watched? It's they play on a field that's like twice the size of an American football field, and they've got these wooden clubs. It's an ancient game. It goes back thousands of years. These guys spend like the whole time just running back and forth the length of two football fields, and they toss the ball up and then they hit it like a baseball bat. And there are no professional leagues. It's all amateurs. So these are all like, but that's an incredible sport. I'd never heard of it until just a year or two back. But like I never watched Mike Tyson.
I've heard of it. I've never watched one.
It's incredible. It's you watch it and you really get an appreciation for like the human ability to engage in physical exertion. Like I don't know how long each game is. It's like an hour, maybe even longer. So just imagine running the length of two football fields over and over again for like an hour.
I'm too old for that shit.
Well, I was too old for that when I was young. I mean,
the only way I'm going to run 2 lengths of a football field is if I have an asshole with a gun and I don't have mine.
Well, I heard that Trump is going to reintroduce the Presidential Physical Fitness Awards.
Yes, he is.
And that's a good idea. I saw a newsreel of it was taken in 1947. I think that's the year that the awards were instituted, and it showed these kids doing stuff that I mean, it was like Marine boot camp. It was like they were using equipment that I've never seen in any school before, like these overhead ladders, and they weren't climbing rung after rung with their arms straight. They were required to climb rung after rung with their arms bent, so like it was exercising their upper arms. And then there were these beams that had holes in them, and you were given these pegs, and you put these pegs in the holes, and you climbed up this beam, like that. And then they had these two horizontal, what would you call them? Wooden, like rails, and you had to jump up on them and then move down. And that was like every single kid there was like physically fit, like you wouldn't believe. And I think it would be great if it was reintroduced. I'm sure the teachers will complain hysterically, but
well, then we'll dismantle the teachers' unions.
Yeah.
Have you seen how everybody's complaining about Trump's dismissal of the bitch at the head of the National Labor Statistics Bureau?
Yeah.
Why do we have a National Labor Statistics Bureau?
No, you and I were talking about it. I can see them being an aggregator of statistics from banks and corporations, but clearly this person was biased and was it's been years now.
And why only labor related. Why
Was
don't we have an office of statistics that compiles anything that the government requires? Why the emphasis on labor? It's part of the fascist shit that we owe to Roosevelt.
but see, during the Biden years, they would always revise the numbers downward by 250,000
Yep.
a couple of months later. Um,
Well, they did that in the first 2 quarters of this year.
yeah.
We find out that they overstated employment by nearly 900,000 to the
Mhm.
Biden administration, and they always do the same shit. If it is a Democrat, employment grew by 300,000, and those are the headlines. A month later, sorry, we made a mistake. It actually was 5,000.
Well, remember during the Biden administration when they were talking about how Biden had created, 1.5 million new jobs, and it was but these are all part-time jobs that people are having to take on as second and third jobs. So, you know,
Uh,
he didn't create a million.
Another one that they didn't say, Biden reduced unemployment by expanding the federal government,
Mhm.
by putting everybody and their mothers into already bloated federal offices. Now, since Trump has been around, we've shrunk the number of federal employees significantly, and still unemployment is reduced. What is that? What does that tell you?
Mhm.
We're fine. I don't care if next month the net is zero. If we create 200,000 jobs and fire 200,000 useless fucking morons in the federal bureaucracy, I'm okay with that. But they don't explain this.
No.
So you know, I, my only beef with Trump is not that he fired this inept Democrat operator, is that he didn't close the bureau altogether.
Mhm.
Hopefully, that's in the works.
Well, okay, Tulsi Gabbard said she's surrounded by Obama's deep state, and you asked why hasn't she fired them all? Well, she, it's not 100% the deep state. She has to find out who the deep state is, and
Mm.
find replacements or merge different departments or whatever. But um, you know, this
Since,
is
since, since I happen to believe that the Labor Department shouldn't even exist, and that the National Labor Statistics Board shouldn't exist, and the National Labor Board should not exist, then for me it's rather easy. I don't have to find out who's useful, who's not. Close it down, fire them all. Thank you very much. Same with the Department of Education.
let's see if
The
the
mm,
let's see if they count themselves. There's about 3 million federal employees.
there you go. We don't need more than 500,000, but I'm willing to settle with 1 billion. Why do we need 3 million federal employees? It's absurd. It's absurd.
Well, also
How many times the
considering that,
population of
like,
Minneapolis?
how many what?
How many times? Imagine the entire island of Manhattan of federal employees.
Well, also, okay, you look at, let's see,
I'm pretty damn sure that doesn't include the armed forces or law enforcement.
There's 137,000 full-time federal law enforcement officers out of 3 million.
Right.
Now,
I thought they weren't even counted because I figured 3 billion. But it's almost insignificant. And by the way, why do we have so many?
okay, here's the Bureau of Justice Statistics.
Oh boy. How many bureaus of statistics do we have?
3,700 are employed by the offices of inspector generals. So we've got 137,000 full-time federal law enforcement officers, 15% of whom are female. Wow.
Not that I give a shit.
Criminal investigation is the primary function of 70% of federal law enforcement officers. So Homeland Security employs half of all federal law enforcement officers.
Natural.
15% are female. So this is after years and years and years and years of reaching out and changing standards and doing everything in their power to get women to try and get a 50-50 percentage.
I wouldn't appreciate my daughter chasing illegals down La Brea.
Well, I mean, I watch a lot of body cam footage, and I'm sorry, unless there's a male officer with the female officer, I've seen multiple videos of a female officer getting the absolute hell beaten out of her by some guy she's trying to arrest. And,
yeah,
you know, she pepper sprays.
It doesn't matter if it is here or in London or anywhere else.
Yeah.
She's always the one who gets a punch in the nose and gets put out of circulation. And thank God there is a bail officer nearby or she's toast.
Well, okay, the Swedes gradually outlawed every weapon of their cops except for pistols. And lo and behold, the number of police shootings went up, you know, it skyrocketed. That's because they had no other way of defending themselves against criminals.
Right. I'm all for it, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I can't muster any sympathy for the people they were shooting, but it would be interesting to know if American female cops shoot people more than male. Since Trump took office, I'm seeing more and more videos of police officers just decking people, and I think that's a good thing. I think that our officers should be allowed to punch someone in the face if they're refusing to cooperate.
Yes.
Give them a black eye.
Have you seen how often we see these confrontations with police on the streets? And police are literally on a kind of wrestling match.
Yeah, exactly.
With the gorilla. And first, of course, there is the pushing and shoving. You shouldn't be able to push or shove a police officer without getting a baton up your head or a gun up your ass. Period. And then, you know, they spend all of this time, and all of this time they're vulnerable. All of this time they're surrounded by a bunch of animals that if they decided to join the fray, that police officer would be hamburgered. They should never be allowed to be in that position.
No, I I've seen a lot of footage from other countries, and Thailand and Indonesia, the first thing the cops do is they take out their batons, and they're trained to use their batons not just as whacking, but as stabbing. And exactly. And you see Indonesian and Thai cops bring people down instantaneously with their batons. You poke somebody in the neck, right in the throat with a baton, they're going to go down. They're not going to be able to fight. And they bark the order, and if the person doesn't obey, boom, maybe you'll get a baton right in the eyeball, and that'll do it.
My favorite video is one of a Brazilian policewoman who's being taunted by an asshole who then attacks her, and she, cool as a cucumber, pulls her gun, shoots him on the spot, and that was it.
Yeah. No, the joke is
removed.
The joke is that half of Brazil are criminals, and the other half are off-duty police officers.
Apparently, yes.
Because you've seen so many videos of off-duty police officers, in a hold-up situation and kind of edging their way around behind the guy and then pulling out their gun and letting him have it. But no, and look at this country. We have 370 million police encounters per year, resulting in around 1,000 people killed by cops every year. That's bloody miraculous. That's astonishing. We get a lot of criticism about our policing, but considering the number of people your average cop interacts with, and still the overwhelming majority of cops never use their weapons in an entire career. I guess that's what's so, I don't want to say enraging, because these people don't enrage me. It's I don't even want to say frustrating. I don't even know how I feel. But an entire political ideology is based on falsehoods. Sidney Sweeney is a Nazi. American cops go out and hunt black people. American women are paid 77 cents on the dollar.
Palestinians are dying of hunger.
Palestinian children are being starved to death by the Israelis. So, I mean, can you think of one thing that leftism promotes that's actually factual?
None. I don't believe anything that comes from them anymore. On even the most trivial matters.
Like, I read an article that said that Canada is poaching our doctors because the majority of American doctors are leftists. I don't know if that's true or not.
If they do, they're going to be back soon, because Canadian doctors that I know have abandoned medicine, and those who are still in Canada are herbalists.
Mm-hmm.
So they can. And I asked one, what the fuck? You know what you do? You're doing this. What if you have a patient with a real issue? Oh, I send them to the hospital. I'm not going to kill them. But why are you doing this? Because as a doctor in the system, I can make 40,000 a year, and I'm capped, and that's it. And as long as I am doing Oriental medicine with flower petals, I can make 150,000 and nobody complains.
Well, see, this is what I was thinking. This article was ringing the alarm bell, saying that we were going to have this crucial doctor shortage, and I just knew that the overwhelming majority of American doctors who go to Canada are going to turn around and come right back, because it's Canada. Um,
It's kind of we have far more doctors eh, operating clinics from Detroit to Buffalo that cater not almost exclusively to Canadians
mhm.
who come to the U.S. for treatment or surgery because their system would have them wait for a year or whatever, and they prefer to have the treatment here and have it now and pay for it.
Well, remember
Eh,
when the Canadian health minister got breast cancer, so she came to the U.S. for treatment?
of course, because she would have been dead in Canada, and she knew it. So for all the cheap talk about the universal system and all that, by the way, if you watch this series that I recommended earlier, Costas,
Hmm.
uh, in one of the chapters, I don't remember now, second, third, or whatever, the guy is wounded and he's taken to a hospital. Take a look at the hospital. This is Athens. This is the central hospital in Athens. Take a look at the building, the exterior. Take a look at the interior. Take a look at the problems in the ER, and realize that that is medicine in Greece. In
Hmm.
Canada, is no different.
Hmm.
So they can go fuck themselves. And oh, we're gonna lose our doctors. The doctors from around the world are coming to this country. We have doctors from Syria, from Nigeria, from Jamaica, from Uruguay, from Argentina, from Brazil, from France, because this is the place to practice medicine. Number one, they're going to make more money than in all of their countries combined. Number two, they're going to be on the cutting edge of medicine. And after making enough money, they can go back to their countries as fucking celebrities.
Well, also they can live here safely. Um, they they can be surrounded by colleagues who can steer them in the right direction. Um, yeah, I'm not worried. I'm also not bothered. You hear people complaining, "Oh, all our nurses are Filipinas." They're great nurses.
Again,
They're brilliant nurses.
yes,
They really, 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 really care
they're
about patients.
Filipinas in LA. Eh, Most of the nurses here are from Jamaica, um, Grenada, Trinidad, and then from all over the place. I've noticed recently a few Peruvians,
Say it again. You've noticed recently.
a few Peruvians.
Hmm.
Eh, Not many, but I noticed a few that I hadn't noticed before. And so freaking what?
Oh,
If they're qualified, bring them on.
we're talking about Californians priding themselves on their bad decisions. I
Yes.
told you that I had a physical, and part of the physical was getting a full blood panel. So I went to a lab, and I always talk to the phlebotomists. And I used to go to it's a chain. It's a big chain. I used to go to the one closer to my house, and now I go to the one slightly further, because in the one slightly further, it's almost all Chinese, and there's never anybody there. The one over here is always packed to the gills, and there's some kind of atavistic terror that Mexican children have for needles. So they
Oh yeah.
scream like they're being murdered, and that doesn't happen with Chinese children. So I go to the one where it's mostly Chinese, and I asked the phlebotomist if there were. I said, this place is really quiet. You know, do you have any screaming children? And she said, oh, you missed them all. And so I asked her, do those kids ever? I mean, does it ever bother you? And she said, no, I have 6 kids, so I screaming children doesn't bother me. Another phlebotomist came in and she said, I have 6 kids, so it doesn't bother me. She said, we prefer children to adults. And I said, why? And she said, because the adults always fight with us. And I thought, holy shit, you're going to pick a fight with a phlebotomist? They said the adults tell them, you're not going to take blood from here, you're going to take it from here. And we have to explain to them that there's no arteries there. And the adults grab them and say, you're hurting me. I had no idea this was happening. I had no idea.
I'm learning now. No wonder they always treat me so well.
Exactly.
And they want to crack jokes.
Exactly. I talk to them. I don't complain. I let them take their time in finding the vein. I do what they tell me to do. And they tell me that for the most part, when it's an adult, they have to fight them every inch of the way. That blows my mind. But it's a typical Californian thing. Pick a fight with the phlebotomist of all people in the world. I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned.
I'm not surprised anymore. These people.
No, these are voters. These are voters.
Yeah, they elect Democrats. They fight with their nurses, and probably pick a fight with their waiters as well.
Yeah.
Layaways offer to let them practice uncommon veins. Yeah, probably. Anyway, we're over 2 hours. So, folks out there, the system in Odyssey is working and is working fine, uh, except for people who haven't subscribed yet or set it up yet. Just remember one thing: you don't need to operate with these and use the support and memberships. You don't need an exchange. All you need is to open the Wonder Wallet on the condition that you use a debit card. The system does not accept credit cards, only debit cards. Uh, it's a regulatory issue. It's not going away anytime soon. So that's one thing. If you can join it, fine. If not, there is always, and for those who are not in Odyssey, there is always quadreroom.com/support us. Please do. And subscribing to at the Brother Lie in X. And remember, we don't have money from USAID. Soros doesn't want to give us anything. The billionaires in Palo Alto uh, actually throw darts at images of Thomas and me. So the only way we're going to survive is if you folks, I see there are close to 900 now watching in all media. If you guys support us, we're going to be here. If not, one day, Thomas and I are going to be sitting at the beach, shooting the wind, and not giving a flying fuck about social media. So, please support us. Help us keep doing this, and that will tell us that you're really interested. quadverum.com/support us. Subscribe to at the Brother Lie in X, and or use the support or join buttons in Odyssey and follow instructions. They're pretty straightforward now. Having said that, enough of this shit, and let's go someplace else in the world, Thomas. Because
Uh-huh.
I have the idea, or rather the impression,
Mm-hmm.
that Uh, Putin is at least three stages higher in the crazy scale than he was a year ago. They
Definitely.
were celebrating. They were celebrating. Stupid Russians were celebrating the fall of Chasilia.
Hmm.
Big win for Mother Russia. We liberated this hamlet with no strategic value and already no property on it worth anything. Just a little mountain of rubble. And they were celebrating so hard because it opens the rest of Ukraine to them. What they didn't say
Hmm.
in all of their celebrations is that the little fucking hamlet is about 6 miles from Bakhmut. And it has taken them nearly 2 years to take 6 miles at a cost of 300,000 dead. Imagine that. How can anybody win
Well,
a war like that?
the thing about them that's really okay. The average age of the frontline Russian soldier is 49 years old, and
Yeah,
I mean that would be enough to break any other country in the world. But it hasn't made the Russians rise up. Um, it's the weirdest thing because okay, Putin, the Russians said that they're willing to have another talk with Ukraine, but the preconditions for the talk are total surrender of the Ukrainians.
yeah,
And I mean, this is ridiculous. I guess Trump has announced that we're going to hit them with basically economy killing sanctions.
oh,
The Indians just stopped buying Russian gas and oil, so that's it. I mean,
yeah.
I
Well,
think
now
India.
now they turn around and are trying to make a big deal about it, but they're going to comply
Mhm.
because Trump is going to slap 100% tariffs on anybody who buys oil and gas from Russia.
Mhm.
Secondary sanctions is what they call it. India, it's 40% of its oil is bought from Russia now. It's a shit ton of oil. I should say on India's defense that a good chunk of it is just to be re-exported to Germany.
Mhm.
But fuck it, they won't be able to do it, and
Yeah.
they use Central Asian, Uzbek, and Uzbekistan, Waziristan, and Tajikistan banks
Mhm.
to launder payments.
Mhm.
They're sending to Russia military equipment, including American parts for missiles, and they're buying oil and gas from Russia, and they're transferring payments to these Central Asian banks. And at one point, it has to give.
Mhm.
We can't have our allies financing Russia in its war against Ukraine. Period. So it's going to end, and Trump is going to slap those secondary sanctions. And Medvedev, that little shit that takes two glasses of vodka and starts shooting bullshit at midnight on Twitter, uh, this time provoked a reaction from Trump that declared that he was sending two nuclear submarines to the area, which, as you know, are always there anyhow. What they're going to do is move them 10 inches.
Mhm.
Uh, but the point is, the message to Russia is you put a muzzle on your dog because we are going to respond to the shape he spews.
Hmm.
And hopefully they do. But the whole thing shows to me a level of desperation that is getting much, much worse for Russia that I've seen in the last 3 years.
Well, also, what's the battlefields that I see, it's these little, basically like outhouses with like a Russian hiding in it, and the Ukrainians going up with a stick of dynamite and lighting it and throwing it down there, and then moving on to the next one. And every now and then, the Russians publish something that they claim is a victory over an individual Ukrainian soldier or whatever. The quality of the film is always horrible. Um, the Ukrainians now are publishing videos that the thumbnail is like this close up of the soldier's face right before the UAV hits him in the mouth, and it's just really amazing.
And the recent disembarkation in a tiny peninsula at the mouth of the deeper that went practically unnoticed in U.S. media was number one successful. So the Ukrainians shown that even in as small a scale as it was, they can land a party of special operators anywhere in Crimea they fucking want to, destroy what they need to destroy, and get out. Second, control of that tiny peninsula opens the mouth of the river so that ships built in Ukrainian shipyards can reach the Black Sea. It's not just any position. Nobody's mentioning this. Um, so the Ukrainians could theoretically open that route.
My guess, given what I'm seeing, is that the Ukrainians, okay, the drones they use are cheap. They are building them in gigantic numbers. So
Yes.
the Ukrainians are taking all the scrutiny off of every other aspect of the Ukrainian armed forces. What I think is going to happen is that the Ukrainians are going to launch multiple large lightning offensives in a bunch of places, and like, for example, Crimea, and basically wipe out the Russians. Ukrainians, for a long time, they were saying, "Oh, we've run out of personnel." That was a lie. They were lying. They haven't run out of personnel. The Russians have run out of personnel, which is why the average age of the frontline soldier is 49 years old, because there's like 80-year-olds up there fighting. You don't see Ukrainian soldiers fighting on crutches. You see Russian soldiers fighting on crutches. There was a period a couple years back where the Chinese were
and you see a kill rate of 10-1.
Yeah, there was a period a year or so back when the Chinese were making the Russians their uniforms. Now the Russians are back to basically wearing shit from the 1950s. They're screwed. And Putin comes out and he makes these really stupid speeches in his little mumbling reasonable voice, and he's literally said nothing of value since 2022. He's not said a single thing of value in regard to the Russia-Ukraine war.
Nah. Or anything else for that matter.
Or anything else. Russia is in stasis, whereas Ukraine has changed dramatically. And you know Trump. Trump doesn't like stasis. Trump doesn't like hamster wheels going around and around and around and around. So something's going to happen in Ukraine that'll take everyone by surprise. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, you know, somebody in Russia just decides they've had enough of Vladimir, because he's really not doing anyone any good at this point.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I've been saying for 3 years that eventually their own people are going to remove Putin from the equation and negotiate a deal.
Well, just
And
wait till
we're
these
getting closer.
wait till these sanctions hit. Like what is the average Russian going to eat? What is the average Russian going to do to make money?
Already, precious few Russians can do that. The only thing is that they've concentrated the pain of a war all over Russia except for Moscow and St. Petersburg,
Mm-hmm.
where you have the largest concentration of these morons. If the pain gets to Moscow and St. Petersburg, it's game over for Putin.
Mm-hmm.
Because Russians can live in a cloud of farts all they want. But if they have to go back to standing in line for bread, it's over. These people are not accustomed to that. So let Putin think that he's a superpower. I cannot believe that they still refer to Russia as a superpower. I can't. I don't know what's gotten into people. I was reading some analysis from Spain, from France, because, China, the US, and Russia are the three superpowers. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but you need to take another look at this.
Yeah, there's
If
one superpower in this
there's
world.
one superpower. Russia was, before the war started, a chicken shit country with a GDP lower than Brazil's and a per capita GDP lower than Bolivia's. I'm pretty damn sure that the GDP per capita today is lower than Haiti's. We would put it right on par with China's. China is another joke. Which did you see the Chinese general threatening American bases in Korea and Japan if anybody
Yeah,
tries to prevent the
yeah,
takeover of Taiwan? I mean, what the fuck are they drinking?
yep.
Did Putin did Putin change soldiers for vodka here? Because these drunken bastards are way out of line. But now they have a sixth generation fighter jet that is going to revolutionize warfare in video
Yeah, we
games.
keep hearing about that. Well, let's
The
see.
J the J-20, don't forget the J-20. Oh,
This list has Russia at number 11, forecast GDP for 2025, which puts it below France, Italy, Canada, and Brazil, and right
I
above
told you,
Spain.
lower than Brazil's.
Yep.
Now, the other thing that you need to do, and that is probably way below $1 trillion, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, you know that is lower than the state of Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and one third the GDP of California.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a superpower? Does that sound like a superpower to you? If Russia is a superpower, California is a superpower cubed.
Oh, ours is 31 trillion.
Oh, I said California, not the U.S.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Hey,
I'm in
Our,
comparison to
our, our,
Russia.
our economy is 31 times larger than Russia's. There's not even a point of comparison. Now, you take that 800 billion uh, number that you get um, from Russia's GDP and divide it by the number of Russian people, and you're gonna get a pitiful fucking like $3,000 GDP per capita. Bolivia has a higher one. Now China is worse because by the time you're done with China, even if you assume the data to be correct, and China is like the gas and Ministry of Health.
Oh yeah, that list that I just had, they had China at 19 trillion.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
I don't either. There's no
I don't
evidence of
buy
it.
it. There's zero evidence and nobody can do it. It's gonna be less than half that. Uh, but in any case, when you take it by population,
Yeah.
it's even the inflated numbers that the Chinese are reporting to the International Monetary Fund, which is the numbers you just got.
Mhm.
What the Chinese reported to multinational organizations based on their voodoo, eh, it still yields a GDP per capita that puts them on par with, I don't know, below Nigeria, on par with Haiti. These are not superpowers. These are chicken shit countries.
Well, the thing I've noticed, there's shitloads of videos on social media that are, comedy videos that the Chinese are putting out, just like regular people, like funny cat videos and everything. And the thing I've noticed is the living standards are just absolutely appalling. Um,
Appalling for what they call the middle class.
yeah. Or okay, there's videos that are compilations of near misses, near misses. And all the Chinese videos are people like sitting at the dinner table on the floor eating with their chopsticks, and then like some big chunk of the wall just falls down and lands right next to them,
Yeah,
like a ton and a half of concrete,
right.
and it's like, oh, near miss, and it's like,
You know how the Chinese have mastered the science of concrete.
yeah, the, we have Roman concrete that's still sitting out there getting stronger by the day. We have Chinese concrete that you can push your index finger through.
Ayo is telling us that in the company he works for, I think it was in Zurich, the business to business sales of industrial equipment for primary manufacturing to China has dropped 70%
Wow.
compar- comparable to 2 years ago. Take that as you will. The Chinese economy is in implosion stage. But even if I take their bullshit, it's still crap. Oh, but they're a military power. The, how can it be that people saw what we did in Iran and not realize that we're playing a different kind of game here?
Well, what about India versus Pakistan? The Pakistanis are armed with Chinese weapons. Look what happened to them.
Yeah. No, India is trying to pressure the US. We don't want the F-35s. We'll buy Chinese planes. Go ahead,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
be my guest. Morons.
No, it's exactly what you said. We had the Israelis go to Iran pretty much whenever they wanted. They had air supremacy, which meant, as you pointed out, we had to ask permission from the Israelis to bomb the Iran nuclear program. We went in and out, and essentially the mullahs They had to go wake up the Grand Ayatollah from his nap and tell him, we just lost our nuclear program. And he said, didn't anyone fire at them? They said, well, we just found out because we saw all these flashes on the horizon, and that's how we knew. We picked up the phone and called them, and we got a doo-da-dee. This number no longer exists.
I'm gonna put something here for you that I know you're gonna love it. But these people are remarkably stupid, Thomas. It, I cannot believe that most folks, talking heads and all that jazz, can't even put two and two together and figure out this thing, even though it is on their noses all the time. Give me 1 second while I open up a link for you, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, this is interesting. Not the one that I was looking for, but I'm going to show you this while I look for the other. Okay, there is no sound. It's just an animation of what happened there. Hmm. I have something like 27 compilations of strikes. Because it's so easy to talk shit. There we go. But we don't know if we hit him. We didn't break anything.
Yeah, they stopped saying that shit, didn't they?
Oh God. Now they're trying to rebuild. They can't get in yet. No. The other one I want to show you, and actually the one I want to show you, I haven't found. So I'll have to bring it next time, just for our mutual enjoyment. But take a look at this one now. Now this one is there is sound on it. There we go. See the extra fuel tank?
Hmm.
Now, do you have any idea how many sorties the Israelis did over Iran in 12 days?
No, I know it was a lot.
Over 1,500. All of them hit their targets.
Hmm.
None of them got a scratch. The superiority here gets to a point that you have to wonder whether there is an enemy anymore.
Well, this is what's called air supremacy. Air superiority means there's still a very small chance that they can get to you,
Yes,
but air supremacy means that you're on your own. You're up there.
you're on your own.
Nobody's going to attack you. Yeah.
No. And I have a list of all the targets hit. We're gonna do it next Saturday, so I prepare it for you in time. But when you see it all together, it's like you gotta be shitting me. How can there be any argument? How can anybody seriously in Iran even suggest the possibility that there could be any kind of retaliation, or for that matter, um, anything other than their surrender?
Well, they don't have any missiles left. They don't have any missile launchers left.
No, because Israel destroyed all of their manufacturing capacity and all of their depots and all of their launchers.
Remember, okay, here's in the Gulf War in 1991, it was almost impossible for us to find and destroy the Scud launchers. All these years later, the Israelis, all the launchers that they destroyed were mobile launchers, no different from
Yes.
Saddam's Scud launchers. The Israelis found and destroyed all of them. So that shows you
Oh, oh,
how much
some
technology has changed.
right, some 200, some 300, some 400. They had all of the mobile launchers from the Russians. Useless.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, shows you how useful are those that Russia has.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about the U.S. Air Force. The Israeli Air Force can take on Russia.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I noticed watching all of these things is the incredible amount of money that Israel has contributed to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
All of these planes were performing tasks for which they were not designed.
Mm-hmm.
The Israelis increased, or rather doubled, the range of the F-35s without compromising weapons capabilities. How much money would the U.S. have had to spend to do something like that and have an F-35 with double the range proven in combat?
Yeah, I mean,
Multi-billion.
this is okay. I used to make this argument to people, say, who said we shouldn't be allies with the Israelis because they said, well, we could just do it ourselves. And it's just like you said, what about the cost? What about the time?
Yeah.
You know, what if we never actually find the answer? Because the Israelis have broken lots of codes that we were unable to break. They found answers to things that we were unable to find answers to.
Hmm.
So, that's why we got that bit of technology from the Israelis, because we weren't able. For example, it's called an active protection system on a tank, where the enemy pops up 6 feet away from you and he fires a rocket launcher at your tank. The Israelis have what's essentially an automated shotgun that fires and hits the munition coming at the tank and detonates it before it can hurt the tank. We had to get that from the Israelis. We weren't able to create our own version of it.
Not economically, anyway.
Exactly.
Um, I have another question on the chat. Let's do if people want, we'll answer questions from the chat for the last 10 minutes. Is Trump still perturbed with Bibi, or did the envoys find that there was no starvation in Gaza? I don't believe that Trump was perturbed with Bibi at any time. Yes, some media reported that, but because those fucking assholes lie. And Trump knows that the only people starving in Gaza are hostages. Now we have seen pictures that remind me of myself. Very nice, but it also reminds me of the people walking out of prison in Germany. They were liberated by America. These pictures are coming from tunnels in Gaza that are still alive. Two of the hostages, or the remaining hostages, whether dead or alive, are Americans. Hamas is still holding two Americans hostages. And I don't hear anybody in American media showing outrage because Americans are being held in those tunnels. And probably, if they're still alive, looking like those emaciated figures in Hamas's propaganda videos. One thing I promise you, if Trump saw those videos, actually he did, you can expect the obliteration of Hamas within the next 4 weeks. This is a game changer. And they're going to get the wrong end of the baseball bat up their ass.
Well,
Um,
Trump said so. Trump said that they don't want to negotiate; they want to die. And he said that you know the only answer is to give them what they want.
period.
Yeah, he's not
It,
said that about Putin, about the Chinese, about anybody else. But he said that about Hamas,
yeah.
and that tells you what's going to happen to Hamas.
And even the Arab countries, even the Arab League, has come out telling Hamas they need to surrender and depose their arms and return the hostages. It's
Mm-hmm.
game over. They just haven't figured it out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, any thoughts on Scottish agreeing to review the way federal districts were apportioned based on race? Uh, what choice do they have? You can apportion districts in for many reasons and in many ways, but you cannot do it based on race. And if they're going to review them, they're going to review them. And if it turns out that some clever asshole in some Democratic state, or Republican for that matter, created districts for blacks and districts for whites, they have to go back to the drawing board and do it again. You cannot redistrict based on race. It's absurd. It's not even arguable at this point. So Scottish is going to review it. Fine. I'm okay with that. Thomas, do you have any problem with that?
No, because I mean, there's so much that has to be settled once and for all, and the way it's settled, you may not like it, but at least it's going to be settled, and it's not going to be hovering out there for the next, however rest of our lives.
Yep. And definitely, can you imagine that in 2025 we're talking about districts based on race?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, race
And
is
and
race. Race as an issue is almost gone, which means that the people using it as an issue are at an all-time height in decibels. So we're going to be hearing a lot about race from a very small number of people, but they're going to
yeah,
be disproportionately loud about it.
of course, and disproportionately reported on.
Mm.
Uh, but I don't care. Let's do it. Let's make sure that it disappears and goodbye. I
Yeah.
remember a district in Florida that included Jacksonville that had 30 miles the width of I-95 to
Mhm.
connect with another neighborhood farther south. Those are ridiculous things,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and and the court would be right. And by the way, that connected two majority black populations to create a Democrat district.
No, we have them here. We have these eerie districts that go off to the left and go up and then come down and go. They're like hollow squares and things like that.
Yeah,
Well, okay, just really quick talking about race. There was a case in Cincinnati where a white couple had the absolute crap beaten out of them by a gang of black people, and the city's blaming the white people. And this is a very bad PR movement for Cincinnati, um, because regardless of who started the fight and how it started, it ended up with a mob beating a man and a woman unconscious, and you end up having the city elders coming out and essentially blaming the victims. And they had a pastor. They had a pastor who had a tiger tooth around his neck, and he did not acquit himself well. So somehow the two white people who ended up laid out on the concrete, it was the fault of them and the mob that wiped them out. They were the victims. So go figure. Cincinnati's in the news. They sent a bunch of people to try and block a bridge in Kentucky, and the Kentucky cops wiped them out, and they didn't like it. They were very sad, but they were told this is how we do business in Kentucky, and bully for the Kentucky cops. Let me just make sure I'm
yeah.
I know what
By the way, that pastor with a
the tiger tooth.
with a tiger tooth, did he also had like a rabbit bone?
Yeah, I mean he was just he was a ridiculous figure, and they were talking about it. They said if this was black on black violence, nobody would have cared, and he was black, and there were other black people, and it's like, you're making that admission. We conservatives have been saying this for years now. If it's black on black violence, none of you people care. And I don't know. It was just imagine what it would have been like if a white mob had beat up to a black woman and a black man.
Oh well, no, we're back to Jim Crow and all that jazz.
Yeah,
there'd be no end to that. Fortunately, that doesn't happen,
No.
except in novels and the degraded brains of people like Al Sharpton.
Well,
Um,
at that press
yeah,
conference, every single person standing on that stage was like a DEI appointee. It was like a cartoon. It was like the Star Wars bar. It was like
yeah. And by the way, I don't give a rat's ass who instigated what. I don't care if those white people went over there to make fun of the black dancers or whatever the crap it was or wasn't. There is an aggressor and there is a victim. I saw the video. A guy comes out of nowhere, punches the woman in the face, and she goes down like a sack of potatoes, and that's it. She was out for the
Mhm.
count. Then there were pictures of her in the hospital with half the face black and blue because somebody who was like a heavyweight boxer just knocked this woman's lights off. That is a crime.
Well,
That I don't care if there was a provocation or not.
did you see the footage outside the Gaslight Bar in Anchorage, Alaska?
I don't think I.
The Gaslight Bar has the most clear security footage I've ever seen. Two women were thrown out of the bar for causing fights. So they went and they got their friends, and their friends came back, and their friends were wearing black COVID masks, sunglasses. Their hoods were up with the drawstrings pulled all the way down to here, and they were both clutching their dicks. So a red alert went out among the security. All the security, except for one, were wearing flak vests and were carrying pistols. The guys clutching their dicks went straight to the security guard who didn't have a flak vest or pistol, got into an argument with him, and then a guy pulled a Glock out of his pants with a big drum and started firing. Well, he didn't realize that when you pull your hood down like this, so it looks like your face is just a giant butthole, you have no peripheral vision. So
No.
right next to him, a security guard opened the trunk of his car and pulled out the world's biggest rifle. And as the gunman was backing away firing at the security guard was shot, but he survived. This security guard with the rifle opened fire at point blank range on the guy with the Glock and killed him deader than Julius Caesar. Just his shirt got blown up, his pants got blown down. Now, I got to see something. I had a question answered. Everybody there, except for a couple of the staffers, were black. Every single person. There was a single white cop who was kind of looking at the dead hood, trying to figure out what to do. So he got overwhelmed by all the friends. I've always seen cop cameras where they shoot some criminal and his family and friends, they all want to rush over to where the body is. And I always wondered what would happen. Well, I learned what would happen. They tried to sit him up and they were shaking him and they're going, wake up, wake up. His head was going, he was dead. So when the shaking didn't work, they tried to stand him on his feet. He was dead. He was so dead that his spine was going. So finally,
I hesitate to say this, but you see this kind of attitude or activity among lesser privates.
exactly after he wouldn't stand up, so they let him flop back into the planter, and then they all started jumping up and down like this, yeah, 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 and they were stamping around. Some were stamping, going like this, dun, 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 and some were jumping up and down like this. Eventually, the cops arrived. They pulled the guy out of the planter, they started giving him CPR, but they realized that they were pumping all the blood out of all the holes in his body. So they cut off his shirt and they put rubber patches all over the holes, and then they tried to pump it, but he was gone. And it was the most... The owner of the store said that the guy with the rifle was a combat veteran from Iraq and Afghanistan. This guy, the second he saw the hood start to pick on the security guard, he got his rifle ready. And the club owner says, this is Anchorage today. This is Anchorage. It's people coming to the club and they feel disrespected, so they take out their Glock and they start shooting. And
Right.
so they hired a guy with an even bigger gun, and he was 6 feet away from this guy when he started drilling holes in him. And all his friends, when he was shooting, his friends were calm. When he went to hell, his friends, it was the end of the world. They were trying to stand him up on his feet. Wake up, Jimmy, wake up. It was the most grotesque and funny thing I've ever seen. And the cops finally arrived en masse and pushed everybody back, but everybody was still, they wanted something to happen.
Mm.
I don't know what they wanted to happen. Did they want the bullets to go out of the guy's body back into the...
To be fair, they had more of a chance to get this guy back alive than getting Biden back alive.
I couldn't figure out. You saw a guy with a rifle 6 feet away just go boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom about 10 times. You know he's not coming back. So
No.
what are you doing? What do you want the cops to do? Do you want to?
I don't know. It's at the very moment, if you're there, instead of standing him up and shaking him, if you plug the holes and try to give him CPR, maybe, if he didn't lose enough blood, if the bullet didn't go through his heart or something, maybe there is enough chance that you might get him to respond. But what you're describing to me only makes it worse.
It was the weirdest thing. I can understand. I've seen, someone is told that, Jimmy died. So they cry, they sit on the sidewalk, they hold their heads. These people were they wanted something to be done. And now that I've seen what this type of person does when Jimmy's been shot, when they just say, Jimmy, wake up, here, stand up, you're okay. Let's go home. And it's like Weekend at Bernie's. Jimmy's like, oh, and they're, I don't know. It was.
I insist. It's like a baby monkey putting the hand of its dead parent on the head.
Well, some woman
and
picked
see
up.
if it comes back alive.
Some woman picked up his hand by the wrist and was patting his hand, and then she let go, and his hand went plop.
Yeah.
And it was like, lady, don't you see all the giant holes in him? I mean, I don't know. It was the weirdest thing. But I didn't know that Anchorage had that many young black people in it. And I didn't know that Anchorage was, I know it's not the greatest place in the world to live, but holy shit. This made it seem, a nightclub security guard keeps a rifle in the trunk of his car right outside the door, and he has to use it?
It's weird. It's weird. I didn't know. Somehow I just realized they were black people because I don't associate Anchorage with a black population of any kind.
I didn't
Uh,
either.
but,
I didn't either. But
I'm sure there's stupid people of every color there.
yeah.
But
This particular club catered to young black people who would feel disrespected and have to start shooting at each other. And the only reason
we had the same problem here.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, as a matter of fact, I told you that hardly a day went by without a shooting on I-95 right in this area.
Mhm.
And people who felt somewhat uh, disrespected, somebody cutting in front of them or tailgating or whatever, which considering the amount of South Americans without a license, it's quite common. And they would pull a gun and start shooting. And
Yeah,
in some cases, it's interesting because some asshole had a camera inside of, in his rearview mirror. I don't know why. Would you put such a camera in your car so you can be filmed at all times?
yeah, I've seen that, and it's aimed right at the driver. It's not aimed
Yeah,
behind him. It's aimed at the driver.
no. Would you do it?
No.
Well, what's the purpose of it? You know, if a drunk driver, as part of a parole type of thing, needs to film himself all the time to account for his driving, okay. But people doing this of their own volition, I think, is beyond stupid. But the funny thing is that the idiot put the camera and sent him to jail because you can see him fumbling, driving at 80 miles an hour, and fumbling with one hand in the console to get a gun. And then he starts shooting, but obviously he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and he starts shooting through the roof of shooting up
Mhm.
every day. Now it's come down, fortunately, but it comes in waves, and I don't understand those folks. I really don't. I think they have brains the size of a peanut.
This is why I never honk my horn. I never make gestures. I never shoot the finger at anyone, um, because you never know. You never
You never
know.
know. You never know. I remember in '89 in New York when it was wild. It was the middle of the crack cocaine epidemic,
Mhm.
and I remember I was coming out of the airport on Rockaway Boulevard, and somebody came out of the ride, cut me off to turn left, and I flipped the bird at him. And then I got to where I was going, and as I'm parking, I see that car pushing right behind me. The guy comes out with a bat. I said, fuck this shit. So I step on the gas, I come out of my place. He follows me. We're going down Rockaway Boulevard at 80 miles an hour, and the fucking imbecile followed me straight into the cops' parking lot, which to me made things very, very easy
Sure.
because he was arrested within a couple of seconds. And then coach said, "What the fuck are you doing coming in at that speed?" I said, "That
Yeah, exactly.
I had to bring him to you." And they cracked up afterwards, but he was so blinded chasing after me because I flipped him
Yeah.
that he didn't realize he did a high speed chase straight into the airport police parking lot.
Yeah. You shot the finger at me, so now I'm going to kill you. Oh, okay. That's logical. That's
That's
rational.
very logical, very rational, and, and he had already gone. I did it automatically, kind of like, you know,
Yeah. Wow.
eh,
Yeah. What?
his back. I
Uh,
didn't know he had even seen me until he was pulling behind me at the parking lot it was I was going to buy sodas for my office, and it was like a wholesale beverage thing. But holy cannoli! I don't understand that. I don't.
no. And there's no way you can understand it because you're a rational man. And to okay, number one, to chase someone because they shot the finger at you, but also to do it for that long, to keep your level of rage boiling up at that point, you know. Um, but I mean, this is why mass shooters They say, I wanted to make the world feel as bad as I do. And it's like, why? Why? They're not doing anything. It's not their fault. It's if you're going to shoot someone,
misery loves company.
yeah. No, if you're going to shoot someone, shoot yourself. I mean, that'll end your misery right on the spot. Yeah. I don't know. I have nothing but contempt for people who take their anger out on others.
It is primitive. When I was a kid, I wouldn't respond to this type of stimulus. As a kid, I wouldn't understand how people would react to a word.
Yeah, I don't know. I just. This is why the phlebotomists are always nice to me and they do an extra special job because I'm not screaming at them,
I always, whenever I go, I walk in and says, "Is Dracula in?"
Yeah.
And they start cracking up. That's my first interaction with them.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, 5 quarts is the limit. I don't know. It's, but still, what baffles me, and in politics, I'm beginning to see it. There is uh, a return to primitive instincts
Yeah.
in society, including politics.
Yeah.
Scott says, 10W30, please.
Yeah.
He's going to change his oil. I'm going to use that one next time. There is a childish quality to what we are describing.
Yeah.
Your mama. No, your mama. At 7 years old, I didn't understand it. Now, it's beyond incomprehensible to me. Is these people are really that underdeveloped?
Apparently.
Oh well.
I don't know.
On that happy note, I guess we are coming to the end of this. We're certainly 12 minutes over the limit. So, folks, I'm going to say it once more. I don't say it all the time, but really, we need contributions. We're not the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which incidentally doesn't give us a fucking dime anyway. And since we have no sponsors, since we're grifting no money from the federal government or rich conservatives, we don't get anything from the Koch brothers either. Please send us a donation so that we can continue here, or subscribe to at the Brother Lie. Same shit. Money goes to the same place. Quadverum.com/support us. And on that one, no impulse control, says Deb, none whatsoever. Impulse control is one of the characteristics of civilized society. What in another place I would say, we learn to subdue our passions. People not only are not successful anymore at subduing their passions, the opposite is true. We are approaching a state of savagery among the common man not seen since the Middle Ages. Yesterday at the bus stop, I watched 2 pigeons fight over a piece of bread. The piece of bread flew up in the air and the 2 pigeons wandered off in confusion. People are becoming those pigeons. Yes, indeed. And on that note, thank you so much, folks. I appreciate anybody who sent a donation. Everybody who did not, what the fuck are you waiting for? And I'll see you tomorrow at the quad meet. And then we have more programming, the VIP room on Tuesday, the spaces on X on Wednesday for subscribers only, and yapping with me on Thursday. And next Saturday, if the creek don't rise and God doesn't send an earthquake to California, there was an earthquake in New Jersey today.
Wow.
Apparently, Chris Christie fell on his ass and registered 4 point something in Richter. Um, if the shit don't rise, if the creek don't rise, I'll be here next Saturday with Thomas, and I'm pretty damn sure that something is going to happen this week that will require a little conversation because I don't think Hamas tipped. You know what? I don't not only think Hamas tipped the balance. I think that those fucking idiots, Macron, Starmer, and company, recognizing a state without boundaries, without a stable population, without a government, without sovereignty, eh, an exercise in futility, if there ever was one, that will change nothing and mean less. Uh, it's kind of forcing the hand now, and I have no doubt that it's a matter of days, not months, days, before we go World War II on what's left of Hamas and finish the job. And Thomas, do you have last word for us?
Boca.
Say what?
Bokeh. Boca.
Boca. Okay. Thank you so much. This time, even I am going to have to Google the damn thing. Eh, but that's what's fun about it. Good night, Thomas. Thank you so much.